automatically does you the gives you the take profit and stop loss. You know, like when it the actual profit, it's not actually it coming up a bit, made like 0.5% rather than probably a 1%. Is that because of all the slippage and spreading and all that?
Yeah, it's partly to do with spread and to do with different brokers.
Right.
It's something that I believe all of us having a look at to see if we can get it to work out more to what you're aiming for.
If you're aiming for 1%,
Yeah,
is there something that you could do within the trading assistant that will calculate that?
yes, yeah. It's something that Oliver's working on, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
His first task was to try and get everything working, and then to go down further into detail and try and get the numbers to match your expectations.
Well, I put the trend lines on this morning and they all matched up. So
Yeah, I found that. Yeah. So Curtis is on. Hi, Curtis. Welcome, Gary, and I'm sure there'll be one or two others. I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me a minute. I'm just going to clear my throat. I'm just going to turn the audio off. I'm going to clear my throat. It's a little bit. Right. I'm going to share my screen, and you should be able to see my MT5 with 4 charts on. If you can't, it's okay. So I'm going to treat this as an absolute beginners session because we've got 1 or 2 changes, some of which you'll be aware of, some which you may not be. But I've got this streaming to YouTube, so there are people watching on YouTube or watching the replay on YouTube who are not yet part of the group. So I'm going to treat it as an absolute beginners session. I'm going to look at 1 chart in particular, and I reduce this down. So we're now looking at Euro USD, and I'm just going to talk you through a little bit of a say what you see kind of session. To make it easier to see what's going on, I've started using the line drawing. I can easily revert that back to candles, but some people might find it a little bit confusing because we've got the bright red Icon candles, and we've also got the price candles. So just to make it less confusing or easier on the eye, I put the line drawing on. So the line drawing is the green line, which is just moving as we go along. We've then got the Heikin-Ashi candles. These are the smooth Heikin-Ashi candles. And what we're looking for, well, I'll go through, we're looking for 4 components. The first component is we're looking for the 2 trend lines, which the great thing about this trading assistant is it draws the trend lines automatically. We no longer have to go through the process that we went through when we were trading manually, of placing the trend lines once the first 15-minute candle closed. So we've now got this nailed down, really. We had a few issues last week where we weren't getting the accurate. We weren't getting accurate trend lines, and that was throwing out some of the trades. We're now working with accurate trend lines. So actually, I just need to change my settings. I just realized one of the things I was going to do before we started this session was change the start time, because I've got the start time at 1300 hours, and I need to change that to 1200 hours. So my apologies for not doing that, but it's good. It's good for new people, particularly, to see that now that I've changed that to 12 o'clock and it's now 6 minutes past 12 UK time. When I go back to my chart, it should, there we go. It's drawn a vertical line on the chart, and that's indicating the 12 o'clock. It says 1500 hours down here, but that's because my broker is 3 hours ahead of me. They used to be 2 hours ahead of me, but we've turned our clock back 1 hour in the UK, so they're now 3 hours ahead of me. So that's the 1 o'clock line. That's the 1:15 line. When so there are 15 1-minute candles in that gap there. When the last candle closes, the trading assistant will draw a red trend line and a green trend line. And the first thing we look for is, or first thing that the trading assistant looks for is for price to either break above the green trend line or below the red trend line. It will never take a trade when price is in between the two trend lines. As long as always as long as we're looking before the crossover. So when the trend line's on, I'll be able to explain that a little bit, but prior to the crossover, we never take a trade when price is in between the two trend lines. Now, I need to change the time on the start time on the other three charts. Whilst I'm doing this, can you see this blue line here and this really faint orange line here? I don't like that. I like to change them. So I'm just going to do that before your very eyes, if you like. I'm going to right click on there. I'm going to go to indicator list. I'm going to this WAE. I'm going to double click on that. Go to colors. I don't want the blue. I want that to be white. I want this to be thicker. And I want the orange one to also be thicker. So that is more like what I like to see. You can now see this white line. It was really difficult to see the dark blue line. The other thing that I do before I start any trading sessions, I look at this indicators list, and if I've got any duplications, I delete them. So here I've got two HA smooth. Now, if you watch what happens when I double click on that, it's telling me that one is the value of 13. And if I click on the other one, double click on there, that's also a 13. I don't need two of the same. I don't need two at all. I only need the one. So I'm going to delete one of those. The reason for deleting them is that if you've got duplicate indications, it is actually slowing down your computer. Not to any great degree, but you'll find that if you're constantly using this trading assistant, and you come to look at your indicators, there might be several duplications. So you need to keep them down to what the indications they actually need. So whilst I'm here, I've got two moving averages, but those are two different ones. You've got the 200 moving average, and the yellow one is the 13. So again, I'll just double click on that. There's the 13, and it's yellow, and it's quite thick. That's the way I like it. This one should be the 200, and it's white, and it's quite thick. Again, that's the way I like it. Show pips is this section here. But when you get into a trade, it'll tell you how many pips are in profit. This is the broker spread, and this is the countdown timer. So that's okay. And then the HA smooth I've already looked at. So keep an eye on your indicators panel, because it will slow your computer down if you've got too many indications. But once again, we're waiting for this, these 15 1-minute candles. We're waiting for the last one to close before we can go any further. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to change the start time on the other 3 pairs. So I'm right click, I go to expert list, go to properties, go down to 13, this should be 1200. So if I just change that to 1200 and okay that. It should draw the lines, there we go, there's my lines. I'm going to right click again, look at my indicator list. They're all okay, I need to get rid of one of those. I need to double click on that and change the colours. So this is a bit of repetition, but they reckon that you learn the more something is, you learn better the more something is repeated. So no real apologies for that. So that's how I like to see my charts. I've got 2 more to go through. I need to move that out of the way. And if anybody is trying to get on. So Tommy's made it, Gary's made it, and Curtis, okay, so let's move myself out of the way.
That's where you're headed.
And so I'm on the 3rd pair, I'm right clicking, I'm going to expert list, I'm going to properties, and I'm going down here, and I'm going to change this 1300 start to a 1200 start. Well, colon 00, that's correct. And you should see the lines appear, there you go. And what's happened there? I don't know what happened there, except I know how to do it. So that's well, I thought I knew how to stop do that. Let me just go back down to that and for some reason it's condensed everything. It won't let me. There we go. That looks how it should. I'm going to change these lines down the bottom now. So again, right click, indicator list. I'm going to delete. That's a duplicate HA smooth. I don't need to. I double click on that and go to colors. It's a bit thicker. And come out with that. And that's the way I like it. And the last one, which is UV card. So right click, expert list, properties, down to the start time. And that's okay. So there's the lines. And then I'm going to change the water outer. There's a duplicate HA, and then delete that. Double click on that. Colors. Change the blue to white. And there we go. So we're all set up for the start of trading. So when this candle closes, the current candle closes, we should see I'll put the candles back on, then you'll be able to see it. So the current candle is the 12:15 candle. There's a time confirmed there, 12:15. So when that candle closes, you'll see the two trend lines being drawn. So we'll just wait. There we go. So we've now got the two trend lines. So my trading assistant is now saying to itself, is the line either above the green trend line or is it below the red trend line? And the answer is neither. It's in what we call no man's land between the two trend lines, and it's programmed not to take any trades. And if I can move this sideways. Why is it not behaving? For some reason, got a computer that's got a mind of its own. Right, okay, well, I won't persevere with that. What I was trying to do was get to this point here, right on the very right-hand side of the chart where the two lines cross over. So having said that, we never take a trade when the two lines, when the price is between the two lines, that only applies until after that those two lines have crossed over. It is possible to take trades between the two trend lines after the crossover. But anyway, we're now not looking for a trade. It's saying here, we're in the trade zone. We got in the trade zone at 1500 hours, which was that time there, 3 hours ahead of me. But it's neither looking for a buy nor looking for a sell. So it doesn't look any further. What it will do once it breaks either above the green or below the red is go on to the next of the 4 criteria. So the second criteria is, have we had a recent wave change? So this is why I like to use the line chart, because you can clearly see the wave change is when the green changes to red and when the red changes to green. So at the minute, the most recent wave change was at that point there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 candles away, 11 bars away. Now I program my trading assistant to get into a trade if the most recent wave change was 20 bars ago, or 20 bars previous, or less. If it's more than 20 bars, it will not take a trade, because I think that when we're stacking probabilities, the probability of price continuing to go up once you've got past the 20 candle mark starts to, well, not as soon, it's not automatically at 20 candles, but the more candles you've got since the previous wave change, the less chance there is of that movement continuing. Not always, but you can see that price tends to go up and then down, or should I say the Heiken Ashes go from green, then there's a wave change to red, then green, then a wave change to red, then green, and a wave change. And it does go in cycles like that. And the longer you're in, for instance, a green wave, the more chance there is of price changing, or direction changing, I should say. So that's the second. So I'll just recap. Are we above the green trend line? No, we're not. Let's imagine we are above the green trend line. We start to look with that and we look back. And if the wave changes within the previous 20 candles, then we look for the third criteria. And that is the moving average crossover. So what I mean by that is where the 13 moving average crosses over the 200 moving average. So if I'm looking over here I've set my trading assistant to look back 13 bars. And if there's been a crossover within that previous 13 bars, then it'll go on to criteria number 4. If it hasn't crossed over in the last 13 bars, then it doesn't take a trade. Now let's imagine that it's actually passed all of the first 3 criteria. It clearly hasn't, because the previous crossover was way back there. But imagine that it had crossed over, it had achieved all those first 3 criteria. The 4th criteria is the water atta. And what we're looking for, the 3 parts to this water atta. One is the white line, which we call the explosion line. 2 is the orange line, which we call the dead zone. And 3 is the histogram bars. What I'm looking for is this scenario. If the explosion line was above the dead zone line here and pointing away from it, and the histogram bars were above the explosion line, then I would consider getting in for a buy. If the histogram bars are green, we're looking at a buy. If the histogram bars are red, we're looking for a sell. Now, that's no good, because we want the histogram bars, we want the explosion line to be pointing upwards away from the dead zone line. So that's satisfactory. That's satisfactory. But ever since then, we didn't have a satisfactory buy scenario. This is now looking like it might be setting up, because the explosion line is pointing away from the dead zone, and the histogram bar is trying to get above the explosion line. It's not ready yet. You can look at this to tell whether it's ready, or you can simply look over here and it will say WAE signal, no trade. When that histogram bar gets, or if that histogram bar gets above the explosion line, and you've got, I think it's set at the minute on 2 consecutive histogram bars, this will change to long in this scenario, because we're looking for a buy. Can you see what's happened? I'm going to put the candles back on. The candle, the price is actually above the green trend line. So my trading assistant is now looking for a buy signal. However, it's not going to get into a buy, because it's noticed that the spread is too high. At the opening of this candle, the spread was actually 21. It's there in red letters, red numbers. So at the opening of the candle, the spread was too high, so it won't get in. Now, the spread is too high when that number is more than 20. I don't want my trading assistant to get into a trade where the broker spread is more than 2 pips. So 20, number 20 here is 2 pips. 21 is 2.1 pips. And currently, it's now, because it's dropped down to 20, it's saying we're looking for a buying signal. So it's, at this moment, it would get me in to a trade because the spread is less than 20, or 20 or less. I'm going to look at the other 3 charts and then move on to something else. Take that off. Right, so EUR USD, we're in the trading zone, but it's not looking for a trade right now. Why is it not looking for a trade? Because I'm above the green trend line. So but it's noticed that the current wave is downwards. So if I just, so that's the 200 moving average, that's the 13 moving average. So we're looking at a downward wave, which is contradicting the fact that we're above the green trend line. So there's no trade to be had there just yet. The latest crossover was way back there. Sorry, the latest crossover was way back before that chart start. And the water atta is looking more like a sell than a buy. So that's why it's not looking for a trade. Not likely to take a trade just now. I look at GBP USD, a little bit more complex. We're above the green trend line, so that is why it's saying looking for a buy signal. The latest wave change was from green to red, so that's contradictory. In fact, any minute now, now price is below the red. It's still above the green, but it's also below the red. And we're waiting for this crossover here, so there may be something about to happen, because when that 30 moving average crosses over the 200 moving average, and we're below the red trend line, and we're in a recent change from wave up to wave down, we've just got to look at the water atta, and if that's telling me to get in, the trading assistant will automatically get me in. At the minute, the explosion line is below the dead zone, so that's not a trading situation. I want the explosion line to be above the dead zone and for the histogram to be above the explosion line. But that's looking as if it's setting up. What might happen, because I've just been talking there as if I'm expecting price to keep on going down, what may happen is price may actually bounce off that green trend line. So if I was thinking about getting in for a sell, if I was trading manually, I'd be really careful about that green trend line. And the trading assistant should take that into account. There we go. Price has literally just bounced off the green trend line. If I put the candles on, you'll be able to see that. So it's been trying to get past that green trend line, and it hasn't succeeded yet. It touched on it there, just broke through it there, and then it's starting to go up. Now this is beginning to look like a sell down here. So we're below the red trend line. This is still saying buy signal, because it's working on the basis that I'm still above the green trend line. But a little bit of contradiction there. But if price breaks below the green trend line, then it will start looking for a sell signal. When it's struggling to get past that green trend line. There's what we call an indecision candle, a doji candle. So basically the buyers are trying to push price back up above that green trend line, and the sellers are trying to push price down below that green trend line. This water atta is shaping up nicely for a sell. It hasn't yet turned to no trade, and that's something that I've had a word with Oliver about. I would like that scenario to give me a short signal here, because when I was trading manually, I only needed one candle to be correct. I only needed the white line to be above the orange line for one candle. And there we go. It's just gone to short now. So the water atta is confirming we're looking for a sell. This has changed now to sell signal. So just to recap, we are now below the red trend line. That's number one. Number two, we've had a recent wave change. It changed from green to red, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles to go. So I am expecting any minute now, if we've got the algo trading turned on, I would imagine it'll get me into a sell on this pair. Yeah,
It's actually the trading system's got me into 3 trades at the minute, Richard.
is it? Right, okay. Something wrong with my setup then.
I'm in Euro USD, which is there. I'm in GP USD and Euro CAD.
I don't have any.
No, I don't have any. Everything's set up fine. Right, okay, so let's have a look. That on the face of it, that should be in for a sell.
The Euro USD is just clocked me out, and that's just made that's just done my 1%, 2-1, and the others are still running. The Euro CAD is getting there. They're both in plus, and the GP USD both sells.
Right, Euro USD, and it says looking for a sell. That's good. The wave is good. The candles are good, and we've got a short on the water atta, so I should be in that one. I should be in that one. Euro card. So recent wave. Well, that one. I understand why it hasn't got me in Euro USD, because it hasn't been a recent. You must Gary, you must have overridden the moving average crossover.
And which one? Euro?
On Euro USD.
Euro.
You must have the moving average switched off, because it hasn't crossed over for quite some time. I'll come back to that in a second, because there is a way that you can
The MA crossover you're talking about?
the MA crossover, yeah.
Yeah, I've got them too. I've got them down as false, and then the 2 MA cross signal true.
Right, so you've overridden on mine, expert list properties. I'm looking for the MA crossover, and I've got true, false, true.
Right.
So yours has got you in, because it's ignoring the fact that the MA crossover was way back. Now that's quite legitimate. I'll talk about that now. If you're in a scenario where you're below the red trend line, you've got a recent wave change, and you've got a water atta which is telling you you should be in for a sell, you can actually override the need for an MA crossover. And I do that sometimes if I can see that quite clearly the 13 is not heading back towards the 200, it's actually moving away from the 200. So if I'd been trading on my own and not doing this live session, I would probably have got in for a sell, even though the MA crossover didn't occur. Now, previously, I would have had to go into my settings and change that. I would have to go and change this. So again, assuming I'm looking at the charts, and you can't do this if you've left the trading assistant to run, but you could change that to false, and you could change that to false, and it would totally ignore, it wouldn't look for an MA crossover. That's a little bit of a long way around now, because you can't, what you can do is you can use this panel here. And if you can see that there's a selling opportunity, you can simply press the S button and it'll get you in using your stop loss and take profit criteria that you've already set. And also using the lot size that you've already set. So at the minute, I'm looking at a calculator lot size of 16.48. So it would get me in as if it had got in on its own. The trading assistant would, this button would get me in as if the trading assistant had asked it to get me in. And it would use the same criteria. I would already have my Euro USD. I use a 3-pip stop loss. I use a 6-pip take profit, and I'm using a 16.48 calculator lot size. Now, it's too late now to get into this for a sell. Purely by looking at this, the sellers are stepping back. The sellers were really stepping up at that point. We should have got in. If I'd been watching this, I would have been tempted to get in for a sell, and I could have got in any time after that candle there. So almost, well, as soon as it got beyond my red trend line, that would have been a time to get in for a sell, and I could have ridden it down. I could have stayed in. I would still be. Well, I would have been. I would have hit my take profit by now. I'm pretty sure. As Gary's just said, got him in.
Yeah, well, the Euro CAD's just come in as well.
Okay.
So that's two, and I've got the other two running that I've left. The other, it's got me into the other two, and
Okay.
GPUSD. That's also about halfway there as well.
Okay. So you presumably got the same. You've overridden the need.
Everything's identical apart from the MA crossover, which I've changed to false. I've just checked all 4 of them. They've all got false, false, true.
Right. Okay. So that's a point worth noting, because of the 4 components within the trading assistant, the one that isn't always absolutely necessary is the MA cross. And that you've taken 4 valid trades there without the MA crossover. Good luck to you. There's nothing wrong with that. I've been a bit more cautious, and it's kept me out of those 4 trades. So that's a decision you'll have to make. A decision everyone will have to make. As it happens, it's worked in your favour right now, because that's a big push down. And my trading assistant didn't get me in. It hasn't got me into any of the 4 trades. So
Neither.
Still waiting for a sell signal, waiting. See, this one here, it's looking like the moving averages may cross over, not immediately, but at some point in the near future. This one has been up and nearly touched it and shot away from it. This one has been nowhere near the white line. If I can just, the white line is sort of running in parallel with the yellow line. So that was never going to have an MA crossover this afternoon. This one crossed over more recently, but the light didn't get me in there. Don't know why that one didn't get me in. Well, it was because it was still between the green and the red trend lines. And now it's probably more than 20 candles since the wave change. So my setting, I'm going to look at the settings, and I'm going to talk you through how they'll affect your trading. That was a really good example. So just to go back over the 4 criteria first. We let the trading assistant draw the trend lines. We then ask the question, is price above the green trend line or is it below the red trend line? If it's in between, we don't take any trades. If it's below the red trend line, as it is here, we then look for a recent wave change. If I put the line on, you can see the wave change was here. And if we were looking at round about here, that was less than 20 candles. So that qualifies. The thing that didn't qualify in my settings was the MA crossover. I'm happy for particularly people who've been doing it for a while. I'm perfectly happy for people to override that MA crossover if they can see that price is definitely, well, if everything else is telling them that price is going downwards. Now that was clearly that moving average decided to take a dive, didn't it, at that point? So too did the 200, and they're going down in parallel. And the water after was telling me I should be getting in for a sell. So I would, if I'd been trading myself this afternoon and I'd spotted that, I would simply have pressed that sell button and it would have taken me into a sell trade, even though we hadn't had an MA crossover. And they're perfectly legitimate trades. Price is still going down. I wouldn't get in now because the water atta is not correct for me. Again, the water atta isn't strong enough for me. I need the explosion line to be pointing upwards, and I need the histogram bars to be above the explosion line. That's a nice strong downward push. See, that was another example, the same as the Euro USD. Look at what happened with price. There was a wave change. We got below the red trend line. It just tanked all the way down there. The water atta would have been telling me that it would have been saying short there. So I've got the price below the red trend line. That's 1 box ticked. I've got a recent wave change from green to red. That's 2 boxes ticked. And I've got the water atta telling me I should be in for a sell. And looking at that, it's almost been up to it, but it's rejected off it. It's very strongly rejected off it. So I would have gone straight to this, clicked the S, and it would have got me in using my stop loss, which on Eurocard is 4 pips. And it would have given me a take profit of 8 pips. And there's certainly 8 pips in that move down there. There's more than 8 pips. So well done, Gary, for doing that. You did the right thing.
Just take them as well, because I was watching it and watching it drop quickly.
Yeah.
I'll move me stop loss right down as well. So even if it turned the other way, I wouldn't have lost anything. I moved it well below the get-in price.
Right, that's good. This fourth GBP card, the spread is too high, or it was at the beginning of this candle. It's now under my 2 pips, or slightly under, but we're below the red, so we should be looking for a sell. Recent wave change, that's okay. There's been no MA crossover, and down here, this is not quite so strong. Maybe you could have got in here, but it's not. Well, I'll tell you why it's not the best trade to be in, because can you see how having broken past the green trend line, it's then faced with the 200 moving average. So it struggled to get past it struggled to get past the red trend line. It got below it and then it was pushed back up again, and then it made a real strong push, came back down again. But then it's got another obstacle in its way. It's likely, well, in my opinion, it's likely to bounce off that 200 moving average. It can either bounce or it can break. But my overriding thought is that it's going to get down there and then the buyers are going to want to push it back up again. It will always find resistance at any line. So the red trend line is a resistance point. The white moving average is also a resistance point. So when price is close to that 200, I wouldn't be taking a sell trade because it's likely to go against me. And also, look what's going on here. So I'm going to look, I'll go back to Euro USD to start off with. Where are we? Go back to Euro USD for the simple reason that on the afternoon session, I have there's only one difference in my settings between the pairs. So the Euro US, I always have a stop loss of 3 pips. So I'm going to go with a right click on there, go to export this properties. And I'm going to go through these and try and explain the effect that each one of these has. So we want the trading assistant to use the risk percentage for lot calculation. That's how it arrives at this number here. It takes into account the amount of money you're prepared to risk. It takes into account the risk percentage. So in my case, I'm risking 0.5% on this pair. And the reason for that is that I'm looking at 4 pairs. So 4 times 0.5% is 2%. And that's the maximum I'm prepared to lose in this afternoon session. When I reach that 2%, the trading assistant will not take any more trades. So we're working on risking 0.5% on this pair. I'm looking for a risk to reward ratio of 1 to 2. Ignore the entry lots. That allows, and I'm using a stop loss of 3 pips. So those numbers there combine to calculate my lot size. But if I lose a trade on this pair, I'm going to lose, in round numbers, not 100% accurate, but in round numbers, I'm going to lose $500 because I'm on a $100,000 account. So I'm risking losing 0.5%, which is $500 on this particular pair. I've got a magic number there, which it's always best if you put your own magic number in, because if you're going for a funded account, the funder will notice that you're using the same magic number as me, and if everybody uses my magic number, we'll all get challenged, I guess. So put your own magic number in there. The risk to reward overrides this number 6. As it happens, my take profit is 1 to 2, so that's an accurate. That's saying 6 pips take profit, but this overrides it. So if I made a mistake on this number, it would still take me to 6 pips before it got me out. Send alerts when trade placed. That's right. That's something new that Oliver's added. I don't think that's active yet, or maybe, I don't know. But this is the idea of this. It will send an alert to your mobile phone when the trade is placed. I don't have that set up just yet. I guess I should change that to false. Spread filter protection. Now, this is important. On Euro US, the broker spread is always low. In fact, Euro US is the lowest spread of all the Forex pairs. It always has and always will be, because it's the most traded pair in Forex. And therefore the broker puts a very tiny spread on it. Other pairs will have higher spreads. we noticed this morning, for instance, that the New Zealand dollar pairs were 3.5 pips. And so the first point is that different pairs have got different spreads, but the other point is that pairs have a different spread at different times of day. So if you look at during the Asian session, the spread will be much higher than it is during the New York session. So we're in the New York session now. The London market's still open. There's a lot of volume going on, so the broker spreads tend to be lower between sort of 9 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. But I always have a maximum spread of 2 pips. Basically, I don't think it's worth being in a trade where you've got a stop loss of 3 and your broker's taking 2. So my stop loss is 2 pips, and the broker's basically going to add another 2 pips on that stop loss. So potentially, if that all went against me, I'd be in something more like a 5 pip stop loss rather than a 3 pip stop loss, because the broker adds this to the calculation. But it's up to you if you want to get involved in trades with higher than 2, but personally I stick to 2. The expert protections, these come into play when you're using this one here, the global basket. So by global basket, what I mean is the 4 pairs that I'm looking at this afternoon, they've all got the same magic number, and so my trading assistant lumps them all together for the calculation, and it knows that I'm prepared to accept a total loss of 2% of my balance, and that's because I'm looking at 4 pairs and I'm prepared to lose 0.5% on each pair. Total 2%. This would actually be, if I was on a risk to reward of 1 to 2, this would actually be 4. But I've given it a number of 6 there to give it some wriggle room, because let's say all 4 pairs get into a trade and they all do rather well, and I don't really want to get stopped out just because it's gone to slightly more than 1% per pair. It might go to 1.1%, and I don't really want it to stop me out. I've given it some wriggle room by putting a 6 on there, and you can see here that say my daily target is $2,000. My daily target loss is 6,000. So daily target take profit is 6,000. Daily target loss is 2,000. And at the minute I'm running on 0%. I haven't taken any trades yet. So all of that from the top down to this global basket, that is your profit and loss control. It determines how much you're going to lose, or how much you're prepared to lose, and how much you're looking to win by combining all of those things there. Partial close, I'll cover another day. Not something that I get involved in right now, but it's a good idea. New settings, I've got those on true, and I ask it to keep me out from 5 minutes before. I've got mine on high impact news, so 5 minutes before high impact news and 5 minutes after. It doesn't take a new trade. Now this 900, having just realized that because I'm starting to trade at 12 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock, I should really have changed that, because what I'm doing here is I'm asking the trading assistant to look back, and I'll show you something. I'll stop sharing this and I'll go to my trading view. Hiya Matt, hiya Tony, hiya Helen. So I'm gonna go. go to trading, we just to explain that one point. So when I was trading manually and I was placing the trend lines, and when I was looking back, let's say that let's imagine that that's the for some reason I cannot get my lines on, but let's say I was looking back from the bottom of that candle. This is the look back, the number of bars now.
Richard, your screen's not showing.
All right, okay. Thank you. Right, okay. So look back bars for
Thank you.
this this controls how far back the trading assistant looks for a high or low candle. Now, if that was my reference candle, let's say that was my 12 o'clock candle today, and I look left, you can see that there's nothing any lower. So I could be looking back for a couple of days, but I always used to limit my look back to the start of the session. So 9 o'clock last night, UK time, was the start of the session. So the number of minutes between that point and that point should be what we've got. Actually, now I come to think of it, not only has this gone back, but that's gone back. So yeah, 900 is correct. 900 is correct. I stand corrected. But you're asking the trade assistant to only look back as far as the start of today's session. That's the relevance of that particular setting. So if I go back to screen share and you should be able to see my MT5. So yeah, 900 is correct. I'm asking it to look for 3 hours. So I want it to start at today. I wanted it to start at 12 noon and finish at 3 o'clock. That's still valid. Previously, I would have started it at 1 o'clock until 4. So we changed that. You just saw me change that. These are all you'll notice that we've got the correct time now. So this has been automatically changed. Heikin-Ashi settings. I've got my Heikin-Ashi set on 13. Paul quite often uses 31, but I've stuck to 13. You can change that if you wish. Ignore these. These need to be 0. HMA settings are irrelevant, and MA crossover. Now, this is relevant. We've just talked about this. This is why Gary, who's on with us, as his trading assistant, has got him into a trade on all 4 pairs whilst we've been on this session, and mine didn't get me into any. And the difference was that I've got these, the 3MA filter on true, and I've got the 2MA on true as well. So it's looking for a recent MA cross, and Gary's got his set on ignoring the MA cross. So on this occasion, Gary made the right decision. Well done, Gary. I'm looking for the crossover within the previous 12 candles. That seems about right to me. You're free to change that if you want to. Now the MA period, so that we've got a fast moving MA, which I've set at 13. And the other MA I look for is the 200. Now I've got the medium set at 200 and I've got the slow set at 200. So I'm just using the 2 moving averages, the 13 and the 200, but you need the medium and the fast, sorry, the medium and the slow to be the same, 200. And apart from that, I don't think I've changed anything. Now, the only difference in the afternoon session is I'm on Euro USD, and as just said, that's a 3 pip stop loss. If I go to any of the other 3 pairs, so let's go to GBP card, and if I right click expert list properties, I'm working on a 4 pip stop loss. That is the only difference. So the Euro USD, I'm working on a 3 pip stop loss, and all the other 3 pairs I'm working on a 4 pip stop loss, and everything else is exactly the same. So if I publish my set list later this afternoon, I'll publish it on the Euro USD, and I'll add a note. Well, yeah, I'll make it clear that Euro USD is the 3 pip stop loss. The other 3 pairs are 4 pip stop loss. And I'll do something similar for the morning session, which I'll have a look at now just to clarify. So that's my Crossfire afternoon session. I'm beginning to wish I'd overridden my MA cost, but there we go. So if I look at manage profiles and click on that, I've got one profile for the afternoon Crossfire session, and I've got another profile for the morning session. I'm going to click on that. You'll see that I've actually got 5 pairs on this one, because I also look at Euro USD. So Euro USD, the settings are still 3 pip stop loss. Euro, well, the two Aussie dollar pairs, I have a 4 pip stop loss, and the 2 New Zealand pairs, I have a 5 pip stop loss. And apart from the timing, if I look at my expert list for Euro Aussie dollar, there's the 4 pip stop loss. I have a different magic number for the afternoon session. Everything else is exactly the same until you come to the look back, which I've got set to 480. So that looks back 8 hours. So that goes back to the start of today's session. And look forward 3 hours. So if I start at 6 a.m., it looks for trades until 9 a.m. and it looks back till 10 p.m. the previous day. I probably need to change that. It won't make a massive difference, but to be accurate, I probably need to change that. Just for this week, well, no, it depends. It depends when the Australian clocks go back. I think there's a bit of a, it's not quite as clear cut in the Australia, because they've got more than one time zone in Australia. But anyway, I would leave it at 480 for now. I would also leave it to start at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's only applies to this week on the American chart. Everything else is exactly the same as I've just gone through. So the only difference is the stop loss and the start time. So close that. You'll notice that when I changed profiles, there was this algo trading was switched off. So when I start trading in the morning, I'll need to switch this back on. But if I now go back to this afternoon session, it's also switched off. So you need to switch it back on again if you want to take trades. And I think I've just about covered everything I need to. So the lesson for today was if you're looking at the charts and you can see that prices, if you're able to look at the charts, I mean, I've got mine set as if I'm going to walk away from the charts and leave them to run. So I'm being ultra safe by having all four of my criteria built into the trading assistant. But Gary's just proved that this setup, had I been looking at this chart on my own, I would have seen an opportunity arising, even though we haven't had a recent MA crossover. And I would, hopefully, I would have spotted that the moving average was moving away from the 200. The 13 was moving away from the 200. We were below the red trend line, and we'd had a recent wave change. And here we had very positive water atta, and I could have simply pressed the sell panel there, and it would have got me in using my 3-pip stop loss, 6-pip take profit, and an accurate lot size automatically. And then when I wanted to, I could let it. I believe I've got to cancel the sell when I want to get out. I need to double check that. Actually, I'm not sure whether it would take me out when it hit my take profit, or whether I'd need to override it once again.
You happen to know, Richard, if you take a sell manually or a buy for any reason, you take a trade manually, and it then meets the criteria for crossfire, does it get you in again? It's not critical. I was just curious, really.
I think I've done that before, and it hasn't.
Okay.
But it hasn't taken another trade, because no, it won't, because if I press this sell button now, this will change to already traded.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So it won't get you into another trade when it meets the criteria. One of the things I'm going to ask Oliver is whether we can make that already traded thing something that you can change, because there are occasions when you can take a successful trade on a particular pair and it changes to already traded, so it doesn't get you in to a trade unless you override it and use this panel. But I think it'd be nice to be able to say, I want the trading assistant to get me into a second trade if the criteria are satisfied. So we might end up with another setting that we can toggle between take more than one trade and only take one trade. I think that's doable. But at the minute, if you're sitting watching your charts, you can take a buy or a sell automatically, which is on the one hand, it's a great improvement. On the other hand, it's putting the emotion back into trading, which was something we were trying to avoid. But anyway, I think I've covered everything I can cover this afternoon. Oh, there's another point here. The MT5 news settings seem to be working okay now. That's at 1700 hours, so that will be in an hour, and well, that's in 51. It's telling me there that in 51 minutes there's high impact news. So we went through a period where we weren't getting the high impact news signals. We are now getting them, and so my trading assistant is set to not to get me into a trade 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after. Again, that's personal choice. If you want to make, I think Paul's got it 10 minutes before and 3 minutes after, something like that. It's something that you've got to decide upon for yourself. If you're already in a trade, it won't take you out 5 minutes before, it'll leave you in. But if you're not in a trade, it won't get you into another trade, or into a trade, I should say.
Just
And
one other thing, Richard. You know what we were talking about earlier on? You know, like when, because everything is set within the trading assistant to get you in once it's got you in. What I've noticed is, you know, when we've talked about the slippage, when because it automatically takes the take, sets the take profit and stop loss based on what you put in.
Mm.
If you go on $100,000 account, what I've noticed is that if you're risking 0.5%, you lose 0.5%. But obviously, with the slippage and depending on the broker's fees, etc., the profit doesn't amount to 1% all the time. Sometimes it amounts to like 0.6 or 0.7. Is there anything in there that can in settings that we can do to adjust for that?
um, I know for a fact that Oliver's looking at that to try and make it so that if you're targeting 1%, the trading assistant will keep you in until you reach 1%. That's something we've been working on. In the meantime, what you could do, we go to expert lists. What you could do is change your risk to reward from 2, instead of going for 1 to 2, you could go to, for instance, 1 to 2.2.
Right.
Now that will override this 6 because it will calculate how many pips you need to get to in order to reach that target, not that target. So you take profit in pip terms will be more than 6 pips. It'll be 6.6, I guess. So it makes it more difficult for you. Well, it means that the price has got to go a little bit further in order for you to hit your target.
Right.
But that's the only way you can do it at the minute. And it's worth an experiment. I mean, if you're still doing it on a demo account, just give it a go and see how far you would have to change it. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, even 2.1 might edge it a little bit closer. But I would try that if you're concerned about your if you say that's 2, isn't it? Yeah, okay. I'm focusing more on getting the trading assistant to work and not being too concerned about the actual amounts of profit and loss that the trading assistant is giving me, partly because it's more important to get it to work and then play around with the numbers, and partly because I know Oliver's already been asked to look at it, and he's far better at that than I am. So, but if you want to play around with it, by all means, you know, try it at 2.1, 2.2, 2.5. You try different numbers and see if they will take it. But it does depend on the pair, because it's all to do with your broker spread.
I was just going to say, I bet it varies pair by pair.
Yes, it will do, because if you look at your if you go into the toolbox, click on toolbox and actually look at the numbers, you'll see that Euro USD will almost exactly match 3 pip stop loss and 6 pip take profit. And then you look at another pair and find that that's where the differences start to occur, and that's the only difference is the spread. And if you look at, we're now in the New York session, so we're in the busiest trading period of the day, and we've got 20. That was 20. But these two, that's 0.3, 0.4, 0.7, 0.8. So these are reasonable spreads. these are not always, because that'll change to 20 any second now. That's 21, look. And these are quite well traded pairs that we're looking at. If you look at some of the more obscure pairs, and if you're looking at you come back to these charts at 8 o'clock tonight UK time, and you'll see the spreads are massive, and it will affect your profits. So that's something we need to look at, and Oliver's been asked to do that. He's got a lot more other things to do as well. But the factor that's changing it is the spread. We've got 0.2 pips spread here, and you've got 17, 18 here. That makes a big difference.
Is that not 1.7 and 1.8, Richard?
It's 1.8. That's now 1.8 pips. And
Yeah, okay, yeah.
0.2 pips.
Yeah.
0.2 pips. Now, that's one of the reasons, I guess, why Paul favours Euro US so much, because, well, I've always liked Euro US. That's why I've got it. I use it as a crossfire pair in the morning. It's not a crossfire pair because it's got nothing to do with the Asian market. It's to do with the US market. But it gives you so many trading opportunities, and the reason that the spread is so low is because the broker is already making lots of profit on Euro US because of the volume of trades. It's only when you go to like some of the Japanese pairs during the night, during our UK night time, you'll find very high spreads because the volume is not there in the market. So the broker is a bit more greedy and takes a lot more off each individual trade. But but I mean, try that, Gary. Just see what happens if you increase your risk to reward.
Yeah, I'm going to try it. I mean, basically, out of the four, two came in. One, I changed the stop loss and made a small profit, probably about a quarter, and then the other one lost. I think it was GPU. It turned the other way, and total went the other way. But I wasn't looking at it at the time, or I would have I could have, because it was making some profit, so I could have actually not lost anything. But it's basically with the loss with the other three and the one, I'm still just over 1%. Which is all right, but I had to watch it and move the stop loss on one. If I'd have moved the stop loss on the other, it would have been more.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're getting there, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not rapid improvement, but if you get to the point where, well, in my eyes, if I was at the point where I could make 1% a day, 5 days a week, I'd be more than happy.
That's my aim.
That would be my aim, 1% a day. Just wanted to do one more thing, then I'm going to have to call it a day because I'm well over time. Something that has cropped up time and time again, where the trading assistant has not taken a trade, is to do with these blue hats. I just want to go through how you can. So on each chart, you need a blue hat. Is that what they call a mortarboard? What they use in graduation ceremonies. It looks like a mortarboard. It has to be blue. It's no good if it's white. And so one thing is you need to click on algo trading, and you can see if you click and that goes red, you can see that's gone to a white, or is it a grey mortarboard? If you click it back to green, it'll go back to blue. The other thing that you need to look at is if you go to view and navigator, you've got 4 hats there. They're all blue. If any of them were, well, I'll just do that one. If I right click on that and then, so if you came to your navigator and you found that one of the hats was, that's definitely grey. if that's grey instead of blue, you just need to right click on that and click algo trading, and it'll come back to blue. But it's something that keeps cropping up, and people panic because they're not. It's not taking a trade, and that's a pretty simple solution. Just keep an eye on this, keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on those. And if you go to, it happens a lot when people put a new, when I change from EA 2.00 to the one with a number 1 after it, what I found was that if I looked at common, this wasn't ticked, so it wouldn't take any trades on. If I click OK on that, you see it's disappeared. So there's
Can I cut in there, Richard?
Say again?
Can I cut in there, Richard?
Yeah.
Well, I've got Channel Radar running, right? And this morning I couldn't understand why it wasn't taking any trades. So look, this is out of session. I'm sure I got the latest update, and I checked, and I hadn't. Or there was a 1 missing.
Right.
So when I said changed it, everything was okay again.
Yes.
That's another thing to look out for. Make sure you got the up to date.
Yeah,
everything's up to date.
That's a really good point. I mean, I've got some old ones here, but Oliver sent me this EA 2.00. When was it? I think it was on Friday. And then he realized that there was something wrong with it, so he sent me the next version. Now, that is this. If I put this version on it won't work. I've got to have the 2.00 brackets 1, and you've got to make sure you've always got the most up to date. So Crossfire wise, that is the most up to date. In fact, what I should be doing is getting rid of these. I'll do that now. Delete that. You want to delete that? Yes. Okay. If I just delete each one, because there is, I think there was at one point there was a bit of crossover, or maybe if I use the word infection, cross infection, that's what I was thinking. There was a little bit of cross infection between some of these EAs, and if you had more than one of them, you were getting some interference, if you like. So that's a better position to be in, to just have the current version of each of the training assistants. If you've got any old ones on, just make sure that you get rid of them, as I've just done. You'll still have them in your downloads file, just that they'll not be in your MT5. And also check here, these are all the latest versions. And that's something that a lot of people, well, I guess almost everybody has made that mistake at some point, including me, at some point since we started doing these training assistants. I've either not had a blue hat on, or I've had a wrong version, or something like that. It becomes more automatic as you go along. So, any last questions? Because I'm well over time.
One quick one, please, Richard. Is sorry, because I missed the beginning of today's session. Is it drawing the 2 trend lines at 12 o'clock now automatically?
Because
just for this week, I understand the principle of the time zones. I just wondered if it was drawing them automatically at 12 o'clock.
You'll need to go to your expert list, and you need to change the start time.
Okay, fine. Okay.
At the start of this session, I'd forgotten to change my start time, and I didn't have the vertical timelines on, so I realized I was wrong, and I came along here, and it was 1300, and I changed it to 1200, but I've got to remember to change that back before next morning. Next week we'll be back to 1300.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
I mean, I didn't realize until, get rid of that. these, I started the session at 12 o'clock and there were no lines appeared here. And if I hadn't changed the start time, the lines would have appeared here somewhere.
Yeah, okay, that's great, thank you.
And that was why yesterday morning I missed a few trades because I hadn't adjusted it. But lesson learned. Can you see what's going on here? This is these. If I put the candles on, I'm sure we'll find there's quite a lot of imbalance in that move here. So this price is likely to go above the green trend line, but then it'll possibly bounce off the 200. But it's got to go back and take out this imbalance at some point, not necessarily today. So if you're going to continue to trade in this afternoon, just keep an eye on that. Okay, so
Thank you.
thanks very much for jumping on, and I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to.
Thank you, Richard. Very informative, as always.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We shall be back.
Cheers, Richard.
Be back on Thursday at 12 noon.